Hi, and welcome back to the history lessons in Edupedia World. Today we're going to start a new lesson. We're going to talk about how life was for human beings before agriculture. We're going to talk about the hunter-gatherer society that was most of humanity before agriculture. How did it live? What did they do? That's what we're going to start discovering today. Nowadays, we have to say that all these extensive areas of land that provide for the food we need to survive. Even in developing societies, people, as we see, work on any piece of land they have to sustain themselves. Look, for example, the second picture with all the terraces that they've built on the mountains to cultivate rice. That's amazing. And it's something that we just take as a given, actually. Especially in the parts of the world where it's only a small percentage of the population that works the fields. We just take it as a given and we don't even think about it. And I have to say, not all the world works like this, as we'll see further on. There are still hunter-gatherer societies nowadays. But let's go and see what's happened with agriculture, because it has, how was life? How was life possible without agriculture? We have to say that it's not been the case throughout history. It's believed that agriculture is only started about 10,000 BC in what you see in the map. That is called the Fertile Crescent, and that is in what now is Middle East. So let's start saying, how was humanity in that moment? Well, until then, they had lived as hunter-gatherers. You gathered, foraged wild plants and animals, and the strategies were actually very diverse. It depends greatly upon the local environment. Foraging strategies have normally included hunting or trapping big game, hunting or trapping small animals, fishing, gathering shellfish or insects. Insects, they're really nutritious. And gathering also wild plants, food such as fruits, vegetables, seeds, nuts, anything they could find. And actually, just combining most of these strategies, you can ensure yourself to have quite a balanced diet. Surprisingly, you can have quite a balanced diet if you can combine everything that we're talking about. And the lifestyle, though, is really tough, and it doesn't always leave much time for development of other activities. Not that they don't have other activities like art, songs, and traditional folklore, but you have to spend most of your time trying to find food. For instance, foragers need an extensive area. We're talking from 18 to 1,300 square kilometers per person to actually gather and get enough food to feed all of the band, all of the group. Because it's actually uncommon to find actual permanent villages that work this way. They did exist, some villages that they were hunter-gatherers, but it could only work if there was a great abundance of resources nearby. So we'll always count as most hunter-gatherers as nomadic and moving every time the food is exhausted. And they grouped in bands. They were normally between 30 and 1,000 individuals, and they would move on foot or sometimes on horses. Even if the groups were so small, it's been proven there were large networks of kinship working amongst them. So you would be moving around, but you would actually get gatherings of bands for special occasions during the year. Things they would celebrate, moments of the year that they would all come together, groups from all the area. So it's not that an isolated lifestyle. And actually, work was, you'll see, quite divided. And this we've been studying through anthropology. All of this that we're talking about, we've got through archaeology and the remains, but not only that. Anthropologists have done some research with the hunter-gatherers that up to this day still using this lifestyle. We cannot say that the notion that this group of humans has not changed or evolved at all is true. It's been proven that even hunter-gatherer groups have changed, adapted, and evolved throughout time and history. And it's quite a conundrum amongst anthropologists to say if this is relevant and if we can extrapolate the information they give us to what we believe our ancestors, or how we believe our ancestors lived. For the moment, we will say that some characteristics we do believe that have been shared, so we will take them as an example. As I was saying, work is normally divided by sexes, and it normally involves all of the group. Okay? It is not only one part of the group. We have the task of scavenging or hunting large game, and this was normally in the hands of adult men. I'm pretty sure you have this picture that it's been here for a long time, that you can see the men hunting large animals to provide for the band or the tribe. This is quite a biased picture, as this kind of prey, like buffaloes, elephants sometimes, these big animals are quite difficult to get. It's really pretty difficult. And it wouldn't have been that common as a base of the diet. It was more frequent to scavenge carcasses, or that normally large carnivores had left behind. So, for instance, a lion could have killed a gazelle, or a pack of lions, a pride of lions, would have killed some buffaloes. Whatever they left, humans could, and other animals, would try and make the most of it. So actually, that was the biggest part of finding meat, not only killing animals, but just making the most of the ones that were already dead. The actual base of the diet would come from what the foragers, women and children would collect. They would go every day out collecting plants, shellfish, insects, or even small game if it was possible. We have to bear in mind that these women also, if they were carrying babies, you can't go hunting with babies, especially because they are noisy and you can't. So it's quite divided. And another thing that these groups of hunter-gatherers have been seen doing is forest gardening, where this is considered quite an elementary way of agriculture, where plants like fruit trees would be protected and taken care of to ensure that they would produce food. So you would take out the weeds, you would probably put some protection in front of it so the animals couldn't reach. Just plain make sure that other plants don't take the place of the fruit tree or the vine or any plant that would recurrently give you food. Well, as we said, anthropologists have been working with many of these hunter-gatherer societies, and they've actually come up with a list of characteristics of things that we can see most of these societies share. We have to take into account that we're talking about societies that come and survive in completely different environments, from the Arctic to the jungle to deserts. Many hunter-gatherers nowadays are a population that lives in remote places of the world where agriculture is actually not possible. In the jungle, in the desert, in the Arctic, not places where you can start easily planting some potatoes. But yes, let's go to the list we've got in front of us. This is the first part of the list. Hunter-gatherer societies are considered to be more egalitarian. You would think that, for instance, dividing the work, so men do this, women do that, would make society less equal between genders. It's actually quite equal having women that actually have a lot of power within the group. Also, the women are grateful for the meat that comes back, and the men are grateful for the work the women do. Also, in this kind of societies, bringing up children is not considered the task of one or two people, the parents. It's not. You bring up children as a group. So your child has multiple mothers and multiple sisters because it's all the group that takes care of the children. So having the women dedicated to that, or a group of women that can dedicate to childcare, while maybe another group of women can go and, what we said before, catch small animals or larger animals. Sometimes in some societies groups of women go hunting with the men. So it's not, the divide is there, but it's not always as strict. Another thing that quite shocked some people was that they don't always have permanent leaders. As you're moving around, you don't tend also to have this leadership that goes down from generation to generation. but someone who is proven that can take care of the group. Another thing that it's interesting to see is that you can't really accumulate food. Normally, you will have to consume the food you've gathered or hunted within around 48 hours. So you can't accumulate. That means that you actually have to go every day out and get some more food for the day or for the next day. You can't just accumulate and then use your time to do something else while you've already got food. This is a daily struggle. Also, you can't accumulate food, but you're moving all the time. So you can't accumulate wealth either. That's why it's a more egalitarian society. You live in small communities and you have really low population density, obviously. Both go together. And having this kind of society that you can stay in one place and build up, you don't really have specialized political officials. You have the leader of the group. Sometimes you'll have a shaman, a religious person, but not much else. The rest of the people have to work on the same level, finding food. And as we've said, they divide the work within the group by age and by gender, sure, but not, as we've said, depending on the groups, because they're very diverse. They don't always ascribe to this fine line. Sometimes men will help gather and women will help hunt. And just to add a couple more curiosities, it's actually been seen that hunter-gatherers are less likely to stress obedience and responsibility in child training. On the other hand, other cultures that emphasize hunting are most likely to stress achievement in children. They also have been seen to show more warmth and affection towards their children than agricultural societies. And the songs are less wordy and they have more non-words, repetition, relaxed enunciation. They don't try and produce so complex songs. That is quite common because these are songs that you use during the day and you need to remember them. So it's easier if there's lots of repetition and they're not too wordy. They're also less prone to, strangely, resource unpredictability, famines and food shortages that agriculture societies have. This is quite surprising, because they normally know where to find. If one resource fails, they know where to find the next one. Not like agricultural societies, because they're using the land only for one thing. If that one thing stops being available, you have a problem. And this last one is quite discussed. Some say that hunter-gatherers fight less. Others, as you've seen, they've reported they are at war every now and again. But other studies do find that it's quite rarer or more absent. They are more Pacific in some areas, and the type of war is quite different. They don't have modern warfare. And with this, we've just had this overview on these hunter-gatherer societies, nomadic, moving around, living on what nature gives them. And this is the first part of this lesson. We've had a global idea, and now in the next lessons we'll really go deeper into the characteristics of these societies. I hope you enjoyed, and see you in the next lesson.